Hey everybody, Kyle here. I'd like to share some first thoughts on the Nikon Z6 camera. Several weeks ago, I recorded another video about my first impressions on the Z7, but that was kind of a troll, a bit of a parody, because I noticed there were a lot of reviewers who were just trashing this camera or praising this camera before it had even been released, and these aren't prominent reviewers who get early access to this stuff. These were just random people on the internet. So I wanted to kind of mock that. This one is a legitimate video, and if you don't believe me, here's the camera. So I've been playing with this for, well, like 6 hours now. I'm still getting to know it, but it feels more or less familiar. Here's my first thoughts on shooting with the Z6. So I'm coming to this camera from the Nikon D600. Has served me more or less well for the last 6 years. The main difference for me is this little joystick that is familiar for D5, D800 users. That's not my background, so one little trouble I'm coming into is when I'm navigating around on the camera, instead of the OK button, I'm trying to use the joystick, which is not what you want to do. So again, it's just kind of training my hands to, new interfaces. My main shooting style is with back button focusing, aperture priority mode, and a lot of exposure compensation. Probably biggest complaint I'd have on this camera is the positioning of the exposure compensation button. I'd be much happier if it was where the ISO button was. I've got kind of freakishly long fingers. This grip is unbelievable for me. It's so comfortable. I can have it resting on the heel of my hand and have my fingers here, easy access to the function buttons. It's a good feel. Touchscreen, I'm having trouble getting used to, just because I've been shooting Nikon cameras for about a decade now using the buttons. So now that I have the touchscreen, it's just having to relearn it. It's wonderful, it's great, the interface is fantastic, especially that I menu, but it hasn't connected in my brain yet that I can do that all the time. I'm still always finding myself using the buttons, so that's just going to be practice. For the EVF, I'm one of those people who is very bothered by flickering lights. I use photography and video lights to light my studio instead of traditional LED bulbs, because that subtle 60 hertz flicker, I notice it. Those digital DLP projectors that usually people are using these days, I can't stand those. They drive me nuts because I just see that flicker and I can't handle it. EVF on this, well, I do definitely notice the lag, and I do notice a little bit of flicker. It's not ruining my ability to shoot. It's not really harming it at all. I'm liking it. In fact, being able to have the zebra stripes and focus peaking, and best of all, having a histogram in the viewfinder while I'm shooting, that alone, again, more than worth it. Especially when I'm shooting in low light, how it kind of shows exactly what the image is going to see. It's a great feature, and I'm surprisingly in love with it. It's a big viewfinder. It's bigger than the one in my D600, so it's nicer to look into. Built-in image stabilizer. I can't get over how revolutionary this is. I've got a huge collection of old Canon FD lenses, and I've got an FD to Nikon F adapter. But most of these lenses, including some 70 to 200 3.5s and some weird kind of, they have some really nice optical properties that aren't that hard to match with modern glass. It's mostly imperfections, but they haven't been overly usable just because focusing through a Nikon DSLR where you just have that green dot in the bottom corner that tells you if you're in focus is no fun at all. And just things like having magnification through the viewfinder and having stabilization so I can actually focus it and see what I'm focusing on, it's a game changer. I think that single feature alone is worth it. I would rebuy the D600 if it had the stabilizer. That's how important of a feature I think it is. The size and weight are just, again, perfect. Feels good in my hand. I've really not used my D600 very much at all in the last year, and that's just because I'm tired, I'm lazy, I don't want to carry this big honkin' heavy thing around. This guy is so much smaller, so much lighter. when you actually hold it in your hands, that like 1 centimeter shorter and 1 centimeter more narrow, you feel it. You really do feel it. It's pretty nice. I've got a whole bunch of sort of garbage joke lenses. I bought a 500 millimeter f6.7 mirror lens for extreme telephoto, but I thought I could have some fun maybe shooting birds on a tripod or something, but realistically I'm far too lazy to carry a tripod. And secondly, it's just really damn hard to grab focus on this thing, especially if what you're shooting is moving, like birds or something. But on the Z6 with that stabilizer built in, it's actually becomes a usable lens. It's incredible. And the resolution on the screen actually makes it possible to get proper focus and tell that you've got proper focus. So that whole area is game-changing what it lets me do with other glass. Downsides, I find the focus peaking isn't nearly as useful and great as I was hoping it would be. It's a little bit unpredictable. I'm finding if you have a lot of, say, black power wires or cords against a white wall and you're trying to use the focus peaking, sometimes it will highlight an edge that I know is well outside the plane of focus. I'm not sure what's going on, but that's a little unfortunate. Fortunately, even with the viewfinder, you can zoom into 200%, so I have a feeling I'm going to be using that feature a lot more, and I'm going to be not using the focus peaking nearly as much as I was expecting to be. But again, that could change. Like I said, I've only got a couple hours of playing with this. I haven't even gone outside with it yet. So more will certainly be to come.